What if I told you the strongest mind in the room isn't the loudest, it's the calmest? In a world where emotions explode unchecked, the Stoic walks a different path, one of quiet power, inner control, and radical clarity. But here's the truth most people miss. Having a Stoic mind doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel everything and still remain unmoved. Let's go deeper into the first sign of a Stoic mind that 99% will never understand. And if this resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to Whispers of Psychology, where the mind meets meaning. Most people confuse emotional mastery with emotional suppression, but the two couldn't be more different. Suppression is a denial, a forced silence. Mastery, on the other hand, is a deep understanding. It's the difference between locking a wild animal in a cage and walking calmly beside it through the forest. The Stoic mind does not deny emotion. It watches it. It studies it. It learns from it. In fact, ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca wrote thousands of words reflecting on fear, grief, anger, and desire, not to escape emotion, but to investigate it. They believed that to truly live well, you had to master the inner world first. Because when the mind is undisciplined, the world feels chaotic. But when the mind is ordered, even chaos becomes manageable. A Stoic doesn't react instantly to emotion. He sits with it. He questions it. He asks, is this feeling true? Is it useful? Does it serve my values? Let's take anger as an example. Most people get angry and they act without pause. But the Stoic sees anger as a test of control. He doesn't pretend he's not angry. He observes like a scientist would observe a fire. Why did that trigger me? What belief is fueling this reaction? Am I choosing this emotion, or is it choosing me? In that space between stimulus and response, the Stoic finds power. But here's what most people won't understand. This kind of control is not natural. It's not automatic. It's trained. It's practiced daily. In the silence of early mornings, through journaling, self-inquiry, and honest reflection, the Stoic strengthens his inner fortress. He doesn't suppress the storm. He builds a lighthouse in the middle of it. Now take grief. In modern culture, people either drown in it or run from it. The Stoic does neither. He acknowledges the grief. He feels its weight. But he doesn't let it define him. Seneca once wrote that death and loss are natural and grieving is human. But we mustn't let it enslave our reason. Grief can sharpen our appreciation of life if we sit with it intentionally. The Stoic mindset teaches that every emotion is a messenger, but not every emotion deserves obedience. Desire is another powerful force. It drives most people into obsession, addiction, and distraction. The Stoic doesn't kill desire. He redirects it. Desire for status becomes a desire for virtue. Desire for recognition becomes a desire for excellence. Desire for control becomes a desire for acceptance of fate. This is not suppression. This is alchemy. To the outside world, the Stoic looks calm, maybe even cold, but inside, he's in constant dialogue with himself. He doesn't numb his feelings. He filters them. He disciplines them like a warrior polishes his blade, over and over, patiently, silently. This emotional mastery gives birth to one of the Stoic's greatest traits, stillness. In the middle of conflict, he can listen. In the face of betrayal, he can breathe. In the waves of chaos, he can remain upright. That stillness is not luck. It's trained and it's rare, which is why 99% of people will never understand it. They're still reacting while the Stoic is reflecting. But make no mistake, this path isn't easy. It demands brutal honesty. It requires solitude. It asks you to confront your shadow, not once, but daily. It's not for approval. It's not for applause. It's for self-respect, the kind that no external reward can match. So if you find yourself sitting quietly when others lash out, if you choose restraint when every part of you wants to strike, if you feel deeply but respond slowly, then you may carry a Stoic mind. And that's not weakness. That's not numbness. That's power, the rarest kind of all. In a world built on performance and approval, standing firm in your own values, without bending to praise or shrinking from criticism, is a rare psychological strength. The Stoic mind doesn't seek validation from the outside world. It builds its identity from within. That's why 99% of people can't comprehend it, because most people live reactively, ruled by applause or shamed by disapproval. To the average person, praise feels like nourishment. It's addictive. Compliments become fuel. Likes, followers, recognition. They create a temporary sense of self-worth, but it's fragile, because the moment criticism appears, that same worth crumbles. You can always tell how free someone is by how much they need to be liked. A Stoic, on the other hand, is not moved by opinion, not because he doesn't care, but because he knows where his value truly comes from. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The approval of 10,000 men is nothing compared to the quiet whisper of your own conscience." The Stoic understands that to live by public opinion is to live as a slave. So instead of asking, "Do they approve of me?" he asks, "Am I living according to my principles?" Let's pause here. This doesn't mean the Stoic is arrogant or detached from reality. He hears praise. He hears criticism. But he doesn't absorb it blindly. He filters both through the lens of reason. When praised, he doesn't inflate. When criticized, he doesn't deflate. He checks. Is this true? Is this useful? Does this reflect who I really am, or just someone's perception of me? He has learned to remain upright, not because the wind isn't blowing, but because his roots go deeper than surface reactions. This kind of indifference to external validation is often misunderstood. People may call the Stoic distant, emotionless, or too serious. But that's only because they're projecting their own insecurities. When someone isn't constantly seeking approval, they become a mirror, and mirrors can be uncomfortable. The Stoic doesn't need attention to feel real. His presence is rooted in substance, not spotlight. This shows up in real life in subtle but powerful ways. When others chase popularity, the Stoic seeks integrity. When others shift values to fit the crowd, the Stoic remains the same. When others obsess over reputation, the Stoic tend to character, because he knows that reputation is what others think of you, while character is who you are when no one is watching. Praise is like perfume, pleasant, but not something you should swallow. It's fine to receive it, but dangerous to rely on it. Once you build your identity around being admired, you become hostage to every opinion. The Stoic refuses that trap. He also doesn't flinch at criticism. In fact, he welcomes it, if it holds truth, because the Stoic doesn't protect his ego. He trains it. He doesn't say, "How dare they judge me?" He says, "Is there something in this I can learn from?" And if there is, he improves. And if there isn't, he discards it like dust blown off a table. This mental filter is a superpower, because once you master it, you're free from both manipulation and self-deception. No amount of flattery can make you arrogant. No amount of hate can make you bitter. That's equanimity, not indifference, but balance. Consider Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher. He said, "If someone speaks ill of you and it's true, correct yourself. If it's false, laugh." That's the Stoic attitude in action. Cool-headed, unoffended, grounded. The deeper meaning here is that a Stoic mind is anchored in something far more enduring than opinion. It's anchored in virtue. And virtue is not subject to public polls. Whether people admire you or ignore you, the standard remains. Live with wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline. These are the true metrics. Everything else is noise. In modern life, this principle is revolutionary. We live in an age of feedback loops, algorithms feeding us likes, comments, and dopamine hits. It's never been easier to lose yourself in the opinions of others. But the Stoic cuts through the noise. He remembers, it's not who claps for me that defines my path. It's how I walk it. So when someone praises you, don't let it blind you. And when someone criticizes you, don't let it break you. Remain firm. Observe both. Learn from both, but don't live by either. Because if your self-worth depends on how others see you, you'll never be free. But if your worth is tied to how you see yourself, with honesty and discipline, then no one can take that from you. That is the quiet strength of the Stoic mind. And that is why most will never understand it. Most people live as if adversity is an exception, a temporary disruption to an otherwise smooth life. But the Stoic mind knows better. It doesn't hope for things to go right. It prepares for when they go wrong. And that single shift in mindset, from expectation to preparation, changes everything. To be Stoic is to understand that suffering is not rare. Pain, betrayal, loss, failure. These are part of life's design, not glitches in the system. While others avoid thinking about hardship, the Stoic rehearses it, not to become pessimistic, but to become unshakable. There's a Stoic practice known as premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It means mentally walking through potential challenges before they happen. What if I lose my job? What if my investments fail? What if someone I love dies? What if my plans collapse? It sounds dark to most people because they've been taught to avoid negative thoughts. But avoidance doesn't build resilience, confrontation does. When a Stoic imagines loss or suffering, he's not inviting it. He's diffusing its power. He's strengthening his emotional immune system. Just like athletes train their bodies through discomfort, the Stoic trains his mind to controlled exposure to hardship, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who is already prepared for them." That's not cynicism. That's clarity. And yet, 99% of people don't think this way. They're surprised every time life gets difficult. They say, "Why me?" or "I wasn't ready for this." But the Stoic already considered the possibility, and in doing so, rob it of its ability to shock him. This doesn't mean the Stoic welcomes suffering. It means he's ready for it. He walks through life with a calm alertness, like a soldier who's trained for war, but still hopes for peace. He doesn't fantasize about worst-case scenarios to scare himself. He does it to remind himself, even if this happens, I will not fall apart. Even in this, I can endure. Because the truth is, much of our suffering doesn't come from the event itself. It comes from our unpreparedness for it. A sudden loss, a financial collapse, a broken relationship. These hurt more when we build our peace on the illusion of permanence. The Stoic builds his peace on impermanence instead. And that makes him stronger. He reminds himself that everything is borrowed: health, wealth, relationships, reputation. None of it is guaranteed. None of it belongs to him permanently. So he holds it all with gratitude, but not with attachment. That's why the Stoic doesn't break when loss comes. He bends. He adapts. He endures. Let's make this practical. A Stoic trader doesn't just prepare for profits. He prepares for drawdowns. He accepts risk as part of the game. He doesn't emotionally collapse when the market turns, because he already imagined the loss, felt its impact mentally, and resolved not to be ruled by it. A Stoic leader doesn't just prepare for success. He prepares for criticism, betrayal, delays. So when others panic, he leads with calm, because he rehearsed this moment long before it arrived. A Stoic in a relationship doesn't assume permanence. He appreciates the other person deeply, but understands they are not his. Their presence is a gift, not a possession. So when loss comes, it hurts, but it doesn't destroy. This level of mental training requires more than just positive thinking. It demands honesty, the willingness to look life in the eye, with all its unpredictability, fragility, and chaos, and say, "I see you, I accept you, and I am ready." This is why Stoics often practice voluntary discomfort, sleeping on the floor, fasting, walking in simple clothes, or imagining exile and poverty. Not because they hated comfort, but because they refuse to be enslaved by it. When you expose yourself, even briefly, to discomfort, you become more adaptable, more emotionally agile. You stop fearing the worst because you've already faced it mentally, and that frees you, free from fear, free from dependency, free from emotional collapse. Most people crumble because they're emotionally untrained. They've never prepared for difficulty. They've been promised comfort, stability, and ease. So when life does what it always does, throws uncertainty their way, they lose themselves. But the Stoic doesn't. He remains because he's rehearsed this. He knows life doesn't owe him ease. It only offers him the chance to grow. And that's what he chooses every time. So when hardship knocks on your door, don't say, "Why me?" Say, "I expected you. Let's begin." This is the quiet preparation the Stoic mind makes, the invisible training that most never see. And that's why 99% of people may never understand the strength behind your calm. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control what was never theirs to control. They try to control how others think, how events unfold, how life responds to their desires. But the Stoic mind, the one that 99% will never truly understand, has learned something most people never do. Peace doesn't come from control. It comes from knowing what to release. The Stoic draws a clear line in the mind, a line between what is within his control and what is not. His thoughts, his judgments, his actions, his responses, these are his domain. Everything else, the opinions of others, the outcome of efforts, the behavior of the world, the passing of time, all of it belongs to fate, to nature, to the unfolding of events. And trying to control those things is like trying to stop the ocean with your hands. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, opened his teachings with a single, powerful truth. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. It sounds simple, but living it, truly living it, is what separates the reactive from the resilient. The average person lives in a constant state of tension because they are emotionally invested in things they can't influence. They worry about whether people like them. They panic when plans change. They obsess over outcomes they can't predict. And in doing so, they give away their power. The Stoic does the opposite. He focuses entirely on what he can control, his choices, his perspective, his attitude, and releases the rest. But this isn't detachment in the cold or distant sense. It's not apathy. It's clarity. It's knowing that trying to control the uncontrollable is not strength. It's suffering. It's not mastery. It's madness. When you accept that outcomes aren't yours to command, you begin to shift inward. Instead of asking, how can I control this? You ask, how can I respond to this wisely? That question changes your life. Because now, instead of resisting what is, you align with reality. Instead of wasting energy on trying to bend the world, you invest that energy into sharpening your own mind. Let's say you're preparing for an important meeting or a trade or a performance. The world tells you, focus on the results. But Stoicism teaches, focus on the process. You can control your preparation, your effort, your mindset. You can't control the outcome. You can't control how people will respond, what the market will do, or how circumstances will shift. And so the Stoic puts all his energy into the input and lets go of the outcome. This mindset is freedom, because now you're no longer enslaved to success or failure. You're no longer emotionally tossed around by the results. You've already succeeded because you live by your principles. You did what was yours to do, and that is enough. This detachment also transforms how the Stoic views relationships. He loves deeply, but he doesn't cling. He supports others, but he doesn't try to control their path. He understands that people are free, and trying to control them only leads to frustration. So he replaces control with respect, possession with presence. And when people change or leave or disappoint him, he doesn't fall apart. He grieves, he reflects, but he doesn't break, because his peace was never built on their permanence. Detachment, then, is not about withdrawal. It's about alignment. Aligning yourself with what's real, what's yours, what matters. The Stoic lives like an archer. He pulls a bow with perfect form, aims with focus and discipline, but once the arrow is released, he no longer owns it. The result, whether it hits the target or not, is not his command. What he owns is his effort, and that's where his pride lives. This mindset is extremely rare, because most people are obsessed with controlling the arrow. They forget the form. They forget the aim. They live in outcomes, not in discipline. And when things don't go their way, they collapse. The Stoic doesn't collapse. He recalibrates, and he continues. This clarity brings a certain stillness, a mental lightness, because you stop carrying the weight of everything you never had control over in the first place. You stop arguing with reality. And when you stop arguing with reality, you start flowing with it. This doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means you become strong. It means when things fall apart, you don't. It means when uncertainty arrives, you meet it with grace, not fear. It means when fate says no, you bow your head, adjust your sails, and keep going. And that's why most people don't understand this kind of mind. They think detachment means giving up. In reality, it means showing up fully, just without the illusion that you can control everything. It means walking into the fire, know you might get burned, but do it anyway, because you are responsible for your action, not the outcome. This is the quiet power of the Stoic, the strength of someone who's no longer trapped in the chaos of external events, but anchored in internal clarity. He controls the one thing that is always his own mind, and that is why the world cannot break him. They won't understand your silence. They'll misread your calm as coldness, your stillness as weakness, your discipline as distance. But that's only because most minds are noisy, always chasing, always reacting, always seeking control in a world that refuses to be controlled. You, on the other hand, are built differently. You don't suppress your emotions, you master them. You don't need applause. Your compass is internal. You don't fear adversity. You rehearse it. You don't cling to outcomes. You surrender to effort. And above all, you've let go of what was never yours to hold. The opinions, the chaos, the uncontrollable tides of life. That's the Stoic mind. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It doesn't seek attention. But it is unshakable. And in a world full of people ruled by reaction, that's a kind of power most will never understand. So if the world finds you hard to figure out, if they don't know why you're so calm while they panic, if they don't get why you don't chase what they chase, don't explain, don't perform, don't apologize. Just smile quietly, because you know something they don't. Your mind is your fortress, and in that silence lies your freedom.